Hi guys, welcome to Backend Engineering School, and I hope you are healthy and doing well in your life. So in today's video, we'll be covering a fresher interview preparation roadmap. If you remember, in my last video, I have covered a interview preparation roadmap for senior backend developers, or let's say mid-level developers, right? But today the topic majorly will revolve around the freshers, right? So our key focus area is around freshers today, right? So let's quickly begin with it. So now you see the total overall preparation for freshers I have divided into three sections, right? One, being a developer, you should understand the development fundamentals first, right? You should be good at the fundamentals of development. Second, you should be good at the project. It's very important. See, project is very important. No matter if you are a senior developer, mid-level developer, junior developer, or a fresher, project is always very important. So second is project. Third is problem solving. Now, because you are new, you're looking out for a job role. Now, people will be asking, could be maybe some companies, some organization may ask you more problem solving, some organization may ask you less problem solving. But point is, almost 85% of the organization during the interview, they will be asking you the problem solving questions. So the entire roadmap has been divided into three parts, right? One is the fundamentals of development, second is the project, third is the problem solving, right? So now if you see, now all these three major topics has been divided into subtopics, right? And these subtopics have couple of other subtopics. We will go through this whole chart, the mind map, and then we will understand one by one. Okay, so you have language fundamentals here, then you have the Git fundamentals, we have the design patterns and solid principle, and then we have the database fundamentals, we have network fundamentals, then we have data structures, not in depth, but some data structures, and then we have the project. You see, project is a very big enough, right? The way I have created is it has a lot of topics in it, and then in the end we don't have nothing. So once you are done with the project, that means you're done with the preparation. All right, so it's more or less, if you see it, around 60 days of roadmaps if you prepare, or if you have a big project, then I would say it will be 90 days roadmap. But if you are a fresher, I would say you have plenty of time, because you may be not working anywhere. Because being an experienced person, if somebody is working and then he or she also has to prepare in parallel, right? So there is a time constraint, but being a fresher, you don't have a time constraint. So I would say take your time, enough time. You think 90 days is less, take more time, take 5 months, 6 months down the line, take any months. Make sure you have all these concepts prepared, right, before appearing for an interview. So now let's begin with our first topic, which is language fundamentals. So being a fresher, you should select one language, okay, I'm not saying select only Java, right? If you don't want to select Java, that's entirely okay. There are other backend languages that you can always go for. There are, people also call it server side languages. You can go for Python. Python is very popular nowadays. You can go for Go, you can go for Node.js, you can go for Java, right? So because of the fact I have sound experience Java, so I'm telling you this roadmap based on Java, right? Now let's say you selected Java. Now first of all, make sure you have good concepts of core Java. You should be very good at the core Java. When I say core Java, that means the core part of Java, which has loop in it, right? If else in it, switch condition in it, and then serialization, deserialization in it, file operations in it. So that kind of core Java, you on the for loops, right? Different kind of for loops. And then you have collections. Even in my last video, I said collections are very important, guys. No matter if you are a senior, you are a fresher, you should be good enough in collections, right? Maybe being a fresher, you won't learn the advanced collections, but you should know the basics of collections, right? You should know what is list, or the array list, what is linked list, what is different kind of interfaces in it, how can you sort it, how can you perform the different operations on it, what is tree map, hash map, all those kind of things, right? And then once you are aware of the knowledge part. You see, I have divided collections into two parts. You have the knowledge understanding. So once you are aware of how these collections work, then you can try performing some of the basic problem. For example, I said that there is a list and then you have to do a sorting on it. You have a hash map and you need to sort the hash map by value, not by key. So all those kind of operations, try doing it. You will find a lot of questions, on internet today, where you can download those questions and try to do all those operations in your local computer on your IDE. Third important thing in the language is OOPS concept. Very, very, very important. Being a fresher, OOPS concepts are very important, right? So now there are several OOPS concepts. For example, you have polymorphism. You should know what is polymorphism. You should know how it works, and where are the areas where you can implement the polymorphism in your project, right? So that kind of understanding of OOPS concept you should be aware of. So, and then you have inheritance, right? All these kind of different kind of OOPS concept you should be very good at. You should understand that what is inheritance, how can you perform it, how can you implement inheritance in Java, right? All those kind of different concepts, OOPS concept, you should brush up. Then comes your Java 8 features. So Java 8 features, again, very important, guys. Then in Java 8, you should aware of Stream API. So Stream API in Java 8, guys, being a fresher, Stream API feature that has been introduced in Java 8 is very important, right? Now almost all organization, whoever is using Java, they are heavily implementing all the code, the functionality in the business logic in Stream APIs, right? So all those things that you could do in the plain Java, you could do the same in Stream API. In fact, Stream API has made things very easier, right? The complicated things, I would say. So now the way you need to target Stream API is you first understand the Stream API, the operations of it, and then you target some of the problems, right? Even if you go to my newsletter suchet.substack.com, you will find a newsletter on the 50 problems on Stream API. So before appearing for an interview, try targeting those problems. So not only I'm saying my newsletter, Google around, you will find a number of problems for Stream API. Once you are done with the Stream API, you should focus on the other features of Java 8. For example, you have optional feature, you have functional interfaces. So all those features you should be targeting, right? And then the other features, there are optional. So for example, if there is any null case, right? If string is empty or not empty, you need to perform some operations. How can you avoid null pointers? Using options that you should learn, right? And then if present, if not present, how that code you can write, right? The existing code you can migrate to using optional, right? And avoid the multiple exceptions, the null pointer and the surprise exceptions. So those kind of surprises you can always avoid using optional. So you should follow this practice, right? Second, there is an exception handling in using Stream, the Java 8 features, right? In the streams also you could do that. So you should learn exception handling in Java 8, how to do exception handling in Java 8, right? So now let's say you have a list, that list has, you have an object, that particular object has a big list in it, a map in it, and let's say each entry of map has multiple lists, right? So you have nested condition here. How can you avoid nested condition using optional? How can you avoid nested condition? How can you do the exception handling? All those safe handling, you can do all those things in Java 8. So you should learn. Now go out to the internet and look around. You will find a number of problems like that, right? And then you can explore those things. Try to learn those things. I'm not saying just try to be very perfect at it, but you should have a hint of it, right? So you can always in an interview, whatever problem you're solving, you could always say, okay sir, I know Stream APIs, I can do that in the Stream APIs. That will make you, look from the interview perspective. We have a lot of population today in Java, right? If you look at one Naukri job in the Naukri portal, you will see 10,000, 5,000 applicants there applying for the job. I'm saying I understand that India has been saturated in terms of IT market, right? In terms of IT companies, but still, trust me, I'm telling you the fact from my perspective at least, that India is still lagging in terms of the quality developers. Still, right? So our focus, our agenda, our mission is to be a good developer, a quality developer. Our idea is not just to crack an interview, right? What happens after interview? You will have to do the company work, right? If you are not good enough to deliver the company work, there is no point of cracking an interview, right? It's same as that you appearing for a medical exam and you're not deserving candidate, and then you're not able to crack the exam, still you are doing the MBBS. So sooner or after you won't become a good doctor. You maybe you could be, but chances are high that you won't become a good doctor, right? So try to be a deserving candidate first, be a quality person, try to prepare the fundamental core concepts first very well, and then go ahead, right? So now once you are done with the exception handling, focus on the other features of Java, right? For example, functions, predicates, consumers. And then once you are done with it, if you want to learn advanced concept, there are by functions, by predicates, all those things you can learn and try to see how can you implement all those things, right? So once you are done with all those things, then you can say that you are done with the Java 8 features, right? So now this whole part is very important. Collections, Java 8 features, and the OOP concept is very, very, very important. And core Java, you already have that. If you don't know the core Java, you can't implement anything. That is very base of anything. So you should be good at. Now now here comes the multi-threading. Now multi-threading is multi-threading. If you have plenty of time, I would say you can prepare multi-threading. If you don't have enough time, you have an interview coming up, or let's say you have seen this video very late, you don't have enough time to prepare, then you can skip multi-threading. That's entirely okay. That is only because if you have enough time. If you have enough time, go for it, prepare multi-threading concepts. Still, I would restrict you, don't go in the advanced concepts, those are not for you. Restrict yourself to the basics of multi-threading. You should know how process and thread works in the operating system level and at JVM level. How can you implement those things in Java? What are the different applications? How can threads make your life and project easier, right? So those kind of application mindset you should get. Once you are done with all these concepts, you can say that you are done with the language fundamentals, and language fundamental was very important. And then now is the time you should learn Git, right? So Git fundamentals again. So this is all. We are still discussing about the fundamentals of development. The major category is fundamentals development. Take a paper, write 3 categories: fundamentals development. Take another paper in your notebook, prepare the project. Third is the problem solving. These are all subcategories of fundamentals of development. Prepare yourself, be very quality developer, be a quality developer at the fundamentals development. Move on to project, move on to problem solving. You are done in 90 days, right? You could appear for any interview, I would say. So in Git fundamentals, you should know, because organizations are using Git, right? I will give you one introduction, because organizations has code is nothing but the asset of an organization. You have all the business logic implemented in it. So the deliverable end product is your software, right? Software could be anything in any form. It could be backend, it could be a front end. It doesn't matter. The point is, it has a lot of code. Code needs to be managed properly, organized, structured, and stored. Where can you do that? This is where the Git comes in. It keeps tracks of everything. So you should be aware of Git fundamentals. So I'm not saying very depth. Git is nothing. It works on pointers. You can first get an understanding. You have GitHub, you have Bitbucket, a lot of repository systems. You can use any of those, but understand at the ground level, all these tools are using nothing but your Git, right? Understand how source code management works in an organization. I'm sure that being a fresher, you won't get, so you don't have to go with the direct words of this statement. When I say source code management works in an organization, then that you go to Google, pick any YouTuber, and he or she must be explaining you how to commit the code and manage code, download the code, pull the code, update the code, stash, all those different kind of operations in Git. You should understand, right? That's what I mean by the statement that in an organization. And then when you are good enough and you understand those commands in Git, you can use those later in your project, whatever project you will be developing, right? Later down the line, 2 months, 3 lines, then you can always use these kinds of command as part of your project, right? Now, as I already covered different commands, and as part of the command, you can see that how you can create branch, you can create merge, you can merge, how you can rebase, cherry pick, right? And then stashing and etc. There are different things you can always explore. So one example could be, let's say in your project, you are managing your code in one place, but you have stable code in one place, and that branch you call it main branch, and sometimes people call it master branch. Now you need to make that change. You have still not tested it. So what you do, you will not directly merge it to your main branch. So rather, you will create a branch out of it, make those changes, commit it on the branch, right, and test it. Once the changes are stable enough, you will raise a pull request. And once that is approved by your peers, by your seniors, whoever it is, if you are freshers, make a team of 2%, 3%, 4%. If you are a team of 2%, then the other guy can do a peer review for you. If you are a team of 3 developers, 3 guys, then if you are raising a pull request, other guy should review it. So right, that should be a peer review. Point is, review is very important. So try to get a look and feel, and I'll tell you how can you do that. The moment where we will be discussing the project, I will tell you how to do those things, right? You need to organize your project in multiple teams. What people does it when I was a fresher, I created many times the way I created project is I created it individually. But remember the fact, guys, the quality of learning that resides in when you do that in the group, when you do that in the team, you learn a lot of things, right? There may be conflict. So you may be resolving conflicts. So actively you may not be resolving. You don't learn that I'm learning the resolving conflicts, but passively your mind is doing it, right? So those kind of things you learn when you do multiple activities in groups, right? So try to do your project in group. When you do things group, you don't lose many things. When you do that in individually, only you have one perspective, and only that perspective gets implemented. That's not good. For the 360 degree development of your mind and the mindset and the thought process for software development, you should do things in group. Try to make a team and do a team management, right? All those things, the work division, all those things. So the things will be, not only you will deliver good things, but only your work will also become entertaining. You will enjoy it, right? You will get an interest out of it. So that was my point. And then as I said, that touch base on the code review part, right? Then comes the design patterns, and you don't have to go in very depth in the design patterns. You don't have to prepare all design patterns. Pick these 3 categories. All design patterns are divided into these 3 categories, right? Creational design patterns, you have structural design patterns, then you have behavioral design patterns. All you need to do is, in behavioral, you can pick 1 or 2 design patterns, right? And then you can say that observer pattern, let's say. And then structure, pick any. Creational, pick any. And when I say pick any, it doesn't mean, when I say learning design pattern, doesn't mean that you only learn one singleton pattern, right? That's very easy. Almost every guy you interview with, you will see that they will say, okay, we know singleton pattern. No, that's not good. Even if you see in singleton pattern, there are multiple variations, double locking singleton patterns, right? So those kind of variations you should know. Design patterns are way beyond than singleton pattern. Try learning different patterns, adapter pattern, command pattern, iterator pattern, right? Even if you see, you have your collections, and then you have iterators. Iterators are nothing. They work on iterator pattern. Iterator itself is a design pattern. Your object pooling is nothing but itself is a design pattern, right? So now Once you are done with design patterns, understand the solid principles. They are very important. Now try understanding the solid principles, and then once you are done with solid principles, always go for database fundamentals. All right. So in database fundamentals, we have divided into three parts: relational, and then NoSQL, and third is the optional. So in relational, you should in database know the any one relational database. You can pick MySQL, you can pick Postgres database, pick any. Try understanding the different concepts of key. Being a fresher, you should know a little bit of normalization. That how can you not make your complicated database? How can you make it very easier, right, and structured, very easier and relatable. Then, as I said, the understanding of database design, how multiple tables are connected in terms of your relations. And then you should know the different type of joins and different kind of commands. For example, if you need to filter those things. The fourth thing is the indexes. Indexes is again very important. Maybe being a fresher, you won't do a lot of focus on it, but understand the basics of it, because indexing is being done internally by database, right, on primary keys already. But let's say you are implementing one project and then you have to search on a different field. Then you may have in your project, you may be dealing with very small requirement, but at enterprise level you will be dealing with a lot of network traffic. Those kind of scenarios, to make things smoother, the first optimization you do at the database level by adding indexes on the column, so your search become faster, right? So those kind of mentality, being a fresher, you should develop, right? Now once you are done with any relational database, you can pick one MySQL database, right? I'm not saying that you should be very good at the NoSQL database. Nobody will ask you a question like that. Okay, can you tell me about MongoDB of this? Nobody will be very specific. People will be asking you the database related question from a project perspective. But to implement databases in your project, you should at least understand the fundamentals, right? So then only you can design a database. For example, in your project, as part of the initial task, you may have to design a database, right? The database design, the structuring, all this, the different kind of tables, the relations in it, that you can only do once you understand the fundamentals. So the same thing applies for the MySQL. You can pick any MySQL database. Not MySQL, I mean is NoSQL database. You can pick Cassandra, you can pick MongoDB. I see a lot of freshers nowadays have been started using MongoDB, but that's okay, that's your choice, right? But whatever you are using, you should know basics of it and the at least few commands of it, right? That's what I said, that if you pick any, you should know how it works, the high level understanding and the different operations on it. Okay. Once you are done with your database fundamental, and then don't go in depth, that's the only thing you need, right? But that will take some time. Then you go to network fundamentals. Network fundamentals is important, right? Now being a fresher, you will tell me, no, why would I read the network fundamentals? Nobody will ask you a direct question on network fundamentals. It's not even needed for interview. But tell me, if you are developing an API in your project, right, then how API works? It's everything is networking. What do you think that in API works on HTTP? Correct. So if you must be developing a REST API, and most of the time you see REST API works on HTTP 1 protocol, which is nothing but the layer 7 protocol, right? Layer 7 nothing but it works on the TCP protocol. So when you do a REST call to some other service, nothing happens but two services first establish a TCP connection. Over to that TCP connection, they start transferring data over HTTP, and that's where your REST call happens, right? So that kind of understanding you will only get once you are good, you understand the basics of networking, right? How TCP IP model works, how there are different models. You don't think that REST API are the only solution. At some place you may be using WebSockets. Look at the WhatsApp, look at all these things, the chat application, right? So the server side, REST is nothing but one-way communication, right? Server can only send the data when client requests it. Let's say there is a requirement in your project, the project you are developing, or you select that kind of project where server can also send a data. in those kind of scenario, server can send the data at any time. So this is where the WebSockets comes into the picture. But that will only, you will have that mindset only when you understand the networking, right? And people skip it, but it's very important. Don't skip it. Now you see HTTP1, HTTP2. Why these two I have written here? Because HTTP2 is way different than the HTTP1 works, right? HTTP2 uses multiplexing, the concept of multiplexing, and this is why your HTTP2 is way much faster than your HTTP1. So now let's say now there may be one question. That you can ask, that why would I learn HTTP2, right? These are very advanced concept. I may or may not, or why would I learn the networking? I may or may not need it, or why would I learn the HTTP2? It's a waste of time. But understand, guys, in the beginning of this lecture, I said India, although has the IT saturated, right? There has been a saturation in the IT market. Remember, no matter what job you do, what kind of role you have, there is always a gap, right? A requirement of quality developers, quality employees, right? Developer is nothing but an employee, right? Not every fresher understands the HTTP2, but if you understand the HTTP2, you can leave a different impression on your interviewer, right? So those kind of things can be impressive during your interview. So, and not only, don't only read just to impress your interviewer, right? Learn to be a good developer. Your goal is to be a good developer. Your interview will automatically get cracked, right? So our agenda is to be very good at what we do, good at what we are preparing for. So now, once you are good at this, you can prepare for any interview. You can crack any interview, right? All right, so let's move on. So now, once you are done with the network fundamentals, so I would say the fundamentals of development part, topic 1 is finished of your preparation, right? So this topic 1, the fundamentals of development, is finished. Now you can move on to the problem solving, right? Now in the problem solving, I would say I have written the data structures, right? Now in the data structures, there are two parts. One is the understanding of data structures. Now before even solving, you can only solve a data structure problem. For example, you have binary trees. Now in order to solve the binary tree, you should understand the properties of it first, right? You should understand how binary tree works, correct? How heap works, then how hash map works. So all those understanding, first understand the data structures, right? And then once you are done with the understanding of data structure, I would say you start applying them. So what I mean by applying them is the problem solving questions. Now being a fresher, right, as part of this 90 days roadmap, or let's say 60 days roadmap, you try solving 60 to 70 questions. At least I have written total 60 questions, but consider them at least. At max, target 80, correct? Target 80 should be a summation of all the questions in all these categories. Try questions in arrays, right? So you can define the weightage as well. Weightage, what I mean is, for example, if you are appearing for tier 2 companies, not many people will ask you the advanced data structure, for example, binary search tree, binary trees. They will ask you most of the time questions on arrays and linked list, right? So in this 100% preparation, you should define a higher weightage on arrays and linked lists. So for example, if you have 100%, if you have like 100%, if you considering it, then your weightage for linked list and array question should be 50%, I would say, right? Or let's say 40 to 50%, I would say, right? Others 50% you can cover other data structure. You can target solving problems of heap, hash map, binary trees, and any other data structures. If you have enough time, you can always learn and move on. All right, but the point is, at least try to solve 60 to 80 and 100 questions, and then weightage should be target 50% of questions on arrays and linked lists. Most of the time people in general companies, they will be asking arrays and linked list. If you're appearing for any company, for like Google, Flipkart and all those companies, I never been on the interview of these company. I can never tell you that, right? They ask these advanced data structure, mostly the graphs, binary tree, dynamic programming, all those things. You can always prepare. Although I have prepared for this, but I've never got a chance to appear in these kind of interviews. All right. So now, once you are done, then comes our very most important aspect, which is project, right? Now in project, so before moving on to project, that you must be aware that so far we have covered two categories. Fundamentals of development is done, problem solving is done, right? Then this is the part that you should take out your like 1 month separately, spend time, very decent time on this, understand whole concepts, and this is very important, right? Now the whole project has been divided into subcategories. For example, requirement understanding. I will go through each category one by one and I will try to explain you, right? So it starts with the requirement understanding. So first you should select a topic, you should identify a problem, identify any problem. There may be, you can talk to your seniors, right? You can talk to your lecturers, you can talk, reach out to corporate people, reach out to myself, reach out these guys and understand that is there any business problem that we could solve. That problem I understand would have been solved already in the market, but that's okay. You can always implement just to learn, right? So pick a problem first, and once you have selected a problem, right, then you should, you should not be very individual. Let's say I as an individual, I selected a topic, right? Now maybe at this time I do not have my friends to be my team members, right? So I may have selected individually a topic. Then I will go to my friends and I will say, ask your friends that okay, this is the topic I have decided, and then if you are interested enough, we can organize people in the team, and then you can so and so forth, you can add on more members, right? So point is, understand the problem, and then once you understand the problem, if you have picked a business problem, then understand the requirement of it. For example, if you have picked a problem that we will try to design or implement a ticketing system, right? A backend of ticketing system. When I said, for example, movie theater ticketing system, the ticketing system would be the base would be the generic for each ticketing system, but let's say if it will vary with the domain. For example, if you selected the movie, it could vary. Some business rules may vary for movie ticketing system, and if you have selected for airline, then airline could vary the business rules, right? But that is okay. So but as part of the problem, for example, you have selected movie ticketing system, then you should understand the business requirement, or you can write it down, right? Take any example, take that any app or anything that books a movie for you. For example, Book My Show, there is an app, right? Try to see that I am designing the backend of Book My Show, and this is very sure that you cannot design a 2-copy Book My Show, because that's an enterprise level, it's very broader level, but you can always implement whatever you could, right, from your ideology. Now you will have to understand the requirements. For example, if you go to Book My App, then this is what you do, this is what you can do. You can select a seat, right? It shows you all seats. Then from the each seat, you select few of the seats, you click on the button. So you see, when it shows you all seats, that data comes maybe as part of the API. Then you will have to design an API, right? Then when you select a seat, maybe there is a post API that you do. That's how your ticket gets created into database, right? And then when there may be a chance that 2 person can book the same ticket at same time, how will you handle those situations? So all those requirements, you will have to write it down as part of your topic, the project selection, right? So you have the requirement and you've done the requirement analysis, right? all those requirement lists. You can gather it from the internet, or you can have a GD session across with your friends who will be working with you will be working on this project with, right? Then you should get an idea, and always it's very important, right? When you are solving a problem, then you should have this idea that when you are solving this problem, what is the business impact of it, right? Why are you doing so? How ticketing system solves the life of problems, right? So you should always get that perspective of a business as well. Because tell me, if you are appearing for an interview for an organization, what do you think? You will be working as a developer, right? What do you think? That organization eventually is doing business, right? Everybody is doing business. So you should understand that how this work of yours from a business perspective, right, how it is making an impact. But that's very conceptual part, that's only for the understanding. Then comes your tech selection. So once you are done with, okay, I will design and implement a ticketing system for movies, the backend for movies, now you will have to define a technical stack for it. Now when I say technical stack for it, that means you may select Python for it, right? You may select Java for it. Now this is not only the data, this is not only the technical stack. Select a language. Let's say you selected Java, then select a database. Let's say I will use PostgreSQL, right? Then select, okay, I may use the API, so I will have to use a framework. So let's say I will use Spring Boot, I will use Quarkus, or any of the right. For database, I will select JPA, right? So all those technical stack you will have to define. It may vary project to project, right? So that's up to you, but you will have to define a tech project. Now you can reach out to me. You say, okay, Suchet, this is the project that I'm planning to do so, and what is the technical stack do you recommend, and why? Why is very important, right? Why is very important. So there are ideologies to adapt a technical stack in the organization. What many organization does it, they prefer using the open source application. Many organization have enough fund, so they spend their budget to buy the premium tools, right? So for example, if you look at the IntelliJ, you will see there is a premium version of IntelliJ, there is a community version, right? But that's apart from the technical stack. IntelliJ is not your tech stack. Then comes your preparing designs. Once you are done with your technical stack, right, now you need to prepare design of the problem you are solving, how you are solving, right? Now this is where your project architecture comes in. You will have to create an architecture. When I say architecture, you don't have to be very technical. You don't have, okay, this arrow, this goes here, this arrow defines this design. No. Take a paper, take a draw.io, and then you try defining services. Let's say you pick a box and draw that box somewhere here. You connect that to a different service. The point is, you should understand that if you are, let's say, as part of your technical stack, you decided that I will try to implement it in a monolithic way. So that means I'll create one single application, and every single thing I'll keep that in one application. But as a fresher, that you are aware of microservices, and you thought, okay, implementing microservices could be impressive and very thoughtful for my project from a learning perspective as well. I will try to implement this in the learning, the microservices fashion. So how many services now will you create? When I say services, that means how many Spring Boot services will you create, right? So first you need to create the project architecture. How can you create the project architecture? In two ways. First, create a domain architecture, right? What is mean by domain architecture? Now this is interesting. So for domain architecture, let's say in the movie ticketing system, there may be a service which only consumes the ticket. There may be a service which sorts the ticket. There may be a Spring Boot service which applies some business rule to identify if the ticket is valid or not. So if you see in the domain, there are three. You have consumer, you have ticket validator, and then you have business rule. The business rule, right? You see, Three domain roles. Although it's very vague example I gave you, I understand, but that's okay. I try to I want to make you understand. You see, so this is domain. How there could be domains are connected. Let's say first consumer comes, then the business rule comes, then the validator comes, or you can say, let's say first consumer comes, the validator comes, and the business rule comes. So this is how your domain has been segregated. Now you may implement business rules in 5 different Spring Boot services. You may implement your business rules in one single monolithic application. That's the implementation. That's your project architecture, how you are implementing it, right? That's not your domain architecture. So domain is from the business perspective, right? And then as I said that write the diagram end to end. So go on draw.io and try to diagram how your request will flow, right? You may create some service, your request will first go to that service, will have some kind of API. People will call that API first. From there, it will go to some other service. That service will call the database. So how a request will flow through. This understanding, this level of project architecture, you should write. Then only you can develop the quality, guys. People just pick any random project and they start developing on Java. That will not create a thought process in you. The thought process you want to become a good quality developer. Remember, right? And I'm sure that while doing so, you will have a lot of questions coming. Lot of questions while doing so is very good sign. Now you can reach out to me, you can reach out to other guys, there are n number of guys on LinkedIn and available throughout different websites and on your maybe or in your social network. Reach out to them, list your questions, ask them. Now you can comment your questions down in your comments as well. If you want me to make a separate video on the project architecture, I can create one and explain you how to do all those things, right? So comment whatever you think I should be creating a video. If you want to, okay, how can we design a database? So I'll create one video on it, right? Now once you're done with that, create a service design. As I said that how many APIs will you have? Now you see in your movie ticketing system there could be some book ticket API. So book ticket API will nothing but a post API. Then you may have you want to see what all movie tickets I have booked. So there will be a get API, right? So those kind of design, just how many APIs will have. If there is an API, if there is any other thing, write it down the service design. API design is not something that you will have to draw on paper. It will be a document kind of thing. So before designing or implementing your API, document it. You see that get, this would be the URL. In this service it will be, and then this will be the request and this will be the response, right? JSON response. And while I'm explaining you, I can understand that you will have a lot of questions. Okay, I can visualize it because I have experience. You may not be able to visualize it, but that's clearly okay. Comment it down. I'll create one video and try to explain how to visualize, right? How to create the API design document. I'll make you explain. Then comes your database design. Database design, you will have to, as part of your technical stack, you have selected a database, then prepare technical design, database design, create multiple tables. How many tables will your database will have? Second thing, how these tables will be connected, which key will act as a foreign key in other table. Once you are done so far, that means you have done so much, you have sound experience, right? If you have reached to this level of team collaboration, I would say you have reached the level of awesomeness, right? So you have half of that, 80% you have become the quality developer. Now the team collaboration. Now if you are 3 members, you need to define the responsibilities, okay? Because you have good analysis in front of you, you have what all APIs you will have to develop, you have what all database design, then you can divide the work very easily. You can say, okay Rahul, maybe you can do this and this. You can list down all your responsibilities. So organizing into teams and doing, because you see, doing project alone is very easy, straightforward. You can solve one problem, implement one thing, move on to next, right? Problem comes when on the same feature or implement the same thing, there are multiple developers working. on the same project. And now when you will have to merge your code, you will have to come together collectively and deliver it. There are several problems, right? Maybe there is a function to calculate multiplication, you have created it, other guy also created it, that's a duplication, right? So that's the only thing I tell you at the code level. At the maybe at the conflict level, other guy thinks have some other opinion, you have some other opinion, other guy has some. Aligning everything into the same page is very important. So you learn a lot of things when you work in a team. That is why I encourage you to work in teams. Now once you are done with the team collaboration, come to the implementation. Come to implementation only when you are done with all these things. Don't directly jump to the implementation. What people does is, being a fresher, even I used to do it, you understood the problem, directly jumping to implementation. No, project is not all about implementing it. I understand the implementation is a part of it, but project is about getting a mindset. It's about developing that thought process, right? To solve business problems. It's not about that you are writing Java code and everything is done. No, project is about developing that thought process so you can solve a business problem and deliver it and make the life easier for anyone, right? You are doing a value addition. That's what the project is about. Now you implement it, right? So you can prepare a low level diagram. For example, if you are writing an API, how the first request goes to controller, then request goes to service, then the JPA, all those things happen. So you can write a low level design if you are comfortable with it. Now you, as I said here, right, the implementation language and this is the core implementation part. You can implement the database and the coding part, all those things you can implement. And then it's very important, very important. Try writing JUnits. I'm sure you cannot write a lot of JUnits, but that's clearly okay for your project. Try writing at least few of the JUnits, so you will get an idea once you are in the organization, right? So you would say, okay, why would nobody will ask me. No, while doing an interview, you are explaining your project, you can always discuss about that we have written the JUnits, and interviewer will be very happy, will be very impressive by you. Because see, there is a row going, there is a path going, everybody is following it. If you want to look aside, if you want to be aside, you want to look different, you will have to do different things, right? Not each fresher while doing the project writes the JUnit. So but if you do so, you can make yourself look different, right? Very impressive in the interview. Second part comes the deployment. Don't leave. See, first of all, don't think project is all about implementation, writing the Java code. No, it's not about it. As I said already, it's about developing a thought process, doing requirement analysis, understanding the problem, designing database design, API design, project architecture. And then once you have done all the Java code, XYZ code, any code, you should deploy it to any environment. Now this could be one jargon for you, that okay, what is environment? If you want me to create a video, comment it, I'll create one video on the environments and I'll try explain you the deployment part. So just to make things easier, what you could do is you can implement, you can deploy your application in any deployment place. For example, if you have a Java application, you can deploy in a virtual machine. You can deploy into EC2 in AWS. You can go for cloud. You can go for anywhere. The point is, no matter if you spend money on it, if you want free on it, you can Google around what are the different ways. If you are following microservice, you can deploy in the Docker containers. If you are not comfortable with Docker containers, try deploying your Java jar file directly. So point is, try deploying it and host it somewhere. So you will see how to deploy this. Then only your project is complete, right? Now, I will explain you what is staging in life. So there are two environments. Once, for example, although there are multiple environments, I don't want to make it complicated for you. So let's say you make changes, you have deployed your project a place, and then you made it available. You said your friends, okay, you can access those API from this is IP and this is DNS URL. Now to understand the organization flow, you could, let's say now again you will have to make changes in your code. You won't directly deploy to the place from where your your friends are using it. So you call it live environment, production environment. From the actual users uses it, you first deploy it to some other environment. You can call it a staging. You deploy and test your changes in staging, and once everything is stabilized, you can promote it to the production environment. So once you done deploying in the production environment, then only you can consider your project to be done. All right. So in the last line, if you're okay, if you have enough time, you have spent 90 days on each of these aspects. All the whole interview, you can prepare a project guide that you can show during your interview, or I'm sure that nobody will see that guide, but before going an interview, you can go over it, and you so the whole project concepts can be refreshed in your mind, right? But that's not mandatory. That's good to have. That's not must have, right? But so the point is, we divided the whole roadmap into 3 topics: the fundamentals of development, and then the problem solving, and then comes your project. Each of these topics are important. This is someone may take 2 months to cover it, someone may take 90 days to cover it, but the point is there is no shortcut to it. You will have to spend this much time eventually to be very good at what you do, to be good at the development part. So maybe you can try following this thing. If you have any question or anything, you can comment it down. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I have my official website as well, backendengineering.io, where I run my boot camps, right, where I explain all these topics very in depth. So in this video, this is it, guys. If you want me to cover any other topic as part of this roadmap, for example, project database design or etc., you can comment it down. I'll try to create a content on it. All right. So far we have covered the roadmap for freshers interview preparation. So I'll probably meet you in the next video, some other content. So thank you so much, guys, and all the best.